Brave Podcast Network.
It's not our job to save them from their consequences. It's our job to help them understand why those consequences are just to their actions.
That's a good one. Your kid royally messes up. You're a single mom. You're the only one. How do you handle it? Hey, really glad you're here for this episode of the Brave Single Moms Podcast. I'm Amanda Carroll. I'm your host with my good friend Sarah Lowater. We're both single moms in the thick of it. Sarah, my son got suspended for 5 days.
Yeah, that happens. I have been there. I think it's to be expected, right? These are teenagers. How old's your son again?
14, 8th grade. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are teenagers. And so tell me a teenager who hasn't made a real big mistake at some point and been faced with some consequences. But
I know.
The key is, how do we handle it, right?
Right. And I think it's an added pressure when your kids get in trouble and you're a solo parent.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just, every family has a different co-parenting situation. Mm-hmm. In this situation, their dad's not always super involved. The school always calls me first. Yeah. He's traveling out of town most of the time. I live right next to the school. At this point, my son's principal and I are on a first name basis.
Yeah.
By the end, it's been 2 years he's been in this school, and he just finally messed up too much this time. And unfortunately, he built up a track record of getting in trouble, and they'd give him grace, and he used up all his grace.
Yeah, well, and when it's just you and mm-hmm. you, the straddling this line of, I want to make sure that my child trusts me enough to come to me when they mess up, to not try and hide it, to not try and be sneaky, mm-hmm. because they know that that's going to be this loving, supportive, guiding dynamic. And also, I need them to know that they messed up and not do it again.
Right.
And there's just this healthy level of fear and trust and how do you navigate that? How do you straddle that line? Are you good cop or bad cop? How do you be both cops, right?
Yeah, I'm still figuring that out. And I can tell you what I did and how I handled it. So it wasn't for fighting. It wasn't for vaping. It wasn't for anything like that. But it still was, he got caught planning to TP a teacher's house. Mm-hmm. And he got caught looking up the teacher's actual address with a school computer. You can't do that. That's actually called a felony.
Yeah.
And getting called in. And I think the number one thing to always remember, no matter what, when your kid screws up, is you have to remain calm.
Yeah.
Even though on the inside, you want to lose it.
Yeah, and that is so hard to do sometimes. So one mm-hmm. of the things I've promised my kids from the time they were really little, I think mm-hmm. we've talked about this before, is no matter what you do, no matter what happens, if you come to me,
yes,
I will never judge you, mm-hmm. and you will never be in trouble. Trouble meaning I'm not going to lose my temper mm-hmm. on you, right? I'm not going to just go crazy. I'll never judge you, and you'll never be in trouble. Now, the key there is you have to really stand by that, because if they come to you with something and you can't keep it together and you come unglued, they'll never come to you again.
It's so hard. And if you've made that mistake, we all have. Mm-hmm. Just letting you know, we all have been there when we've just said something, we're like, that didn't come out right.
Yeah,
we get it. It's a continual reminder, continual piece. I just did a little breathing exercise mm-hmm. before I went over to that mm-hmm. school, and the principal was like, we need you to come here now. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm going to be calm. I'm just going to sit. And I find that if I listen first.
Yep. Don't make any assumptions. Don't come to any conclusions. Just listen.
Just listen. Okay, tell me what's going on. And I just sit and I'm calming myself in my brain of what's happening. And I'm also planning a little bit of how am I going to respond calmly mm-hmm. to this situation, even though on the inside I'm boiling.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important tactic to use,
listen,
especially
and then ask questions.
Yes, especially as a single parent, because you don't have that other person that you can be like, could you just hold my hand? Or you don't have that other person, if you're freaking out, they're not, mm-hmm. or vice versa. Mm-hmm. You have no backup as a single mom, so you're just there alone facing the wrath. And we have that rule too. I always tell my kids, this is a good rule that you could try as a single mom. It's worked for both Sarah and I, is I say, listen, if you call me first, if I hear from you first before I hear from the school, like the consequences will be less.
Yeah.
Just tell me that it's a lot easier if you just tell me the truth.
For sure. And let's face it, like when our kids mess up, especially the royal messes up, but even the small ones, when they mess up, life has a way of delivering its own set of consequences outside of anything you need to do as a parent. They're going to be faced with consequences when they mess up. And so what I found to be really effective in this situation, my daughter is 15, is to stay really, really calm, and let her face the consequences of her actions that are outside of what I'm not save her from them. So one of the examples I have of Lily roiling messing up, also in 8th grade, also when she was Andy's age, they had a lock-in at their school, which is basically a slumber party for the school, right? You go to a small school, they had this lock-in. There's a group of kids that wouldn't let her and her friend into the computer lab. And so they thought it would be funny if they went outside and started throwing rocks at the window that the kids were in. Yeah, seems like a bright idea, right? and they thought this would be a great, well, then she leaves the lock-in. Her dad picks her up from school that next morning. She calls me from her dad's house. I'm at the movie theater. She's in absolute tears. So I step out, I take the call, and she's like, I have to tell you something, and I think you're going to be really mad. And again, she's coming to me. She's not waiting to see if the school's going to tell me. Right. She's coming to me. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I have no idea what this is going to be. So I'm just listening. I have rocks in my stomach, and who knows what this is going to be. And she tells me the story. She threw the rocks at the windows. She thinks she's going to get expelled. She's going to be in a lot of trouble. She thinks she's going to get expelled. This school means more to her than anything. So just
already the consequences she's facing internally.
Because think of, as an adult, think of the thing that means more to you than anything. And now that thing is being jeopardized. You might lose that tomorrow, whether it be your job or something. The thing that means the most to you, that's what she's struggling with internally. And so here's the deal, guys. I know she's not going to get expelled. But I'm not going to let her know that I know that. Ooh. I'm letting her fight this internal battle. And after, listening and hearing her story, I'm like, she's not going to get expelled, but I'm not going to let her know that. And she asked me if I would call the school and maybe help them see her side of it and help them. And I said, absolutely not.
Oh, you didn't.
I said, no, I will not call the school, because it is not my job to save you from the consequences of your actions. Lily, if you get expelled, then that is the consequence to your action, and you will have learned something very valuable there. That when you don't think before you act, you risk losing the things that are important to you. And in this case, you didn't think before you act. And I get it, I understand. She's all emotional. And I said, what can you do? And she's like, unsure. I said, well, you want me to call the school? Right. Why don't you email the school? Email Matt, the owner of the school. I said, email him. You tell him that you're sorry. Don't tell me, tell him. And I just empowered her to solve her own problem. And this is a long way of saying, when we rescue our kids from the consequences of their actions, like getting expelled from school, getting suspended from school in Andy's case. When we rescue from the natural consequences of their own actions, we're not teaching them anything. All we're teaching them is that if something really bad happens and it's a big enough deal, we'll save them.
We're robbing them from the lesson. And we're robbing them. And I get it.
Giving them a different one.
Yeah. And as a single parent, I think sometimes we're very tempted. And I know if you've done it, it's okay. We're very tempted because we have this stereotype that we're fighting, and we don't want others to think, oh, that's the kid with the single mom. And we have to stop caring so much about what other people think, because really it's a story that you're making up inside your head. You don't think those principals and those teachers see absolutely everything. They do. And most of the time they probably don't even know that you're a single parent unless you tell them. And I think most of the time we build up these stories in our head on what everyone is going to think. And we focus on that rather than what does my kid need from me?
Yeah.
What does my kid need me to do? So my son also lost the end of the year 8th grade graduation dance. And he also lost, they do an end of the year trip to like the water park near us. So they get to a whole day of school. They're graduating from 8th grade and going into a new school, into high school. And they all go on this trip to this water park. And he lost that.
Yeah.
And there was part of me in that meeting that I wanted, the mom, the loving mom in me, I felt so bad for my son. And I kind of wanted to like, is there anything he can do to earn those back?
Yeah.
I thought that in my head. I didn't say it, but everything in me was like, can he do like some community service? Like, don't take away his sunsplash day.
I mean, as single parents, we already struggle with a lot of guilt on whether we're enough for our kids.
Right.
So when we see them disappointed or sad, or it's innate for us, especially as mothers, being as nurturing and caring as we innately are. It's innate for us to want to save them from that, and to want to take those sad feelings and those bad feelings away. And sometimes we might even create the story in our head that they're going to resent me if I don't. They're going to hate me if I don't. But it's not our job, and I think I told you this when Andy got suspended. It's not our job to save them from their consequences. It's our job to help them understand why those consequences are just to their actions.
That's a good one.
And that's it. And with love.
And I picked him up and I was like, okay, we talked to there was a police officer there. It was intimidating. Yeah. I brought him home and we sat and he immediately went to what can I do to make it better? And at that point, honestly, inside, I didn't know what the heck. Well, what else am I going to do? The school's suspended, take away the 8th grade dance and the sunsplash trip. Do I need to add anything else onto that?
I mean, at this point, I think it's just helping them accept it.
Yeah. So it's funny. He felt like he needed to do something because he knew it completely interrupted my work day. And he started like weeding and like cleaning the yard. And I just let him do it because it's like, he's got to feel like he's helping. Yeah. And then we sat down and we went through like, okay, we need a new track that your life is going to be on. Yeah. And I taught him journaling. Great. For a 14-year-old boy. Actually it ended up in a weird way, the day my son got suspended ended up being a really special bonding day.
Yeah. Well, because when you approach it instead of with anger, but with compassion and love, right? Not that you're telling them their behavior is okay, but like, for example, it's okay to be like, I'm really sorry you're missing out on the dance in the water park. There's nothing I'm going to do to make that different for you. Right. But I get it that it's a bummer. When they see that, they're like, okay, mom's on my team. Yeah. She just can't do anything to fix it because she didn't break it. Why should she have to fix it?
Yeah, it's empathizing but not saving.
Yeah. And think of how it would have been if instead of meeting that with like, I'm sorry, that's a bummer, and teaching them these tools like journaling and instead of that, if you were like, well, good, what did you expect? You shouldn't get to go to the dance. You shouldn't get to go to the water park. What did you expect? Go to your room. I don't want to see you for the rest of the day. You're grounded for 2 weeks. Right. So, not to say, like, we've all been there too. Yep. Not to say that's not very tempting to do, but the difference in the trust that you're creating with your teenager, which only is going to get more complicated as they mess up as teenagers, is like, it's mom's against me, it's me against the world, versus mom sees me, mom loves me. Mom cares that, and she's trying to teach me, right? Using it as a moment to pull them close without condoning, instead of making sure that they feel scolded with your disappointment.
I like that. Like, moms are teachers too. Homes are classrooms too.
So much.
And we teach almost things that are even more important about empathy and understanding and respect. And, we talked about, I have him writing down his goals every day and pathways that he's going to reach those goals. I'm like, who do you really want to be? He's like, I want to play 3 sports in high school. I was like, well, you got to be the kid that could coach once.
Yeah.
And the kid that has a bad reputation is not going to get picked no matter how many baskets you score or hits on base that you get or touchdowns you score. Like you have to, and he's getting it. And
you're just so powerful. It's so powerful. And one of the things that I do, and maybe you did this in the situation, is when they mess up.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation, and I'm helping them understand the gist of the consequences. I'll ask them, genie in a lamp, time machine. We get to turn back time right now.
Oh.
How would you have done it differently? What would you have done instead? Start from the beginning.
That's a great question. I didn't do that. I should have. Maybe I will.
It really helps them uncover what it is they learned. What do you learned from this? Have you learned that throwing rocks at windows is not something that's a good thing to do? What is it that you're actually sorry for? Are you sorry for throwing the rock at the window? Are you sorry for vandalizing? Are you sorry for getting caught?
Right.
What are you sorry for? And what did you learn from it? And I had Lily do this when she threw the rocks at the windows in form of, I encouraged her to write an apology email to the school. I didn't tell her what to write. I didn't tell her what to say. This child is very, very good with her words. She's very articulate. So she writes this whole email and she sends it to me and she goes, what do you think of this? And in this email, it made it very clear exactly what she learned and exactly what she was sorry for, because what she apologized for wasn't throwing the rocks at the windows. What she apologized for, they go to a very small private school, and this school is all about creating an environment that's conducive to supportive learning.
Okay.
And her apology was for disrespecting the space that the owner of this school had created to allow all of these people to come together and learn in this very unique way. And she apologized for disrespecting him and that space with her actions.
She got it.
And I was like, you're not sorry you threw the rocks at the windows. You're sorry for what it meant when you threw the rocks at the windows. And that right there shows me I have nothing to discipline you for.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about, I think if I would ask this question, I'm going to do this. I'll report back in the next episode what he said. But he decided maybe I should be more choosy about who I'm associating myself with. I said, yeah. Maybe you should. You don't want to get pulled in kind of the wrong direction.
Yeah, that was one of her things too. She goes, it wasn't my idea to throw the rocks at the window, but I did it anyway. And maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have just went back inside or not gone out there in the first place. So yeah, perhaps you should have.
That's really good. I mean, every scenario in parenting is hard. I think especially when you're a single parent and maybe you don't have the support that you want. I think it makes it twice as hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's important to know and to rehearse, even if you don't have teenagers yet. What are you going to do when? Oh, girl, because there's a when. It's not an if.
Yeah. And I think it's important that they know we're human and that we've been there. So a lot of times when they're having a hard time accepting the consequences to their own actions, I'll tell them a story of some time that I royally messed up, lost something that really meant a lot to me, couldn't get it back, how I handled it, what I did, and how nobody came to save me. I had to just accept that as the consequences to my own actions and learn from it to make sure I never found myself in that position again. But when we're vulnerable with them and they know I'm not just trying to be the boss of you, know everything, I'm perfect, I've never messed up, we've all messed up, let's be real. They know you're human, they know you've been there too, and that you can truly empathize with what it feels like to be disappointed and having lost a privilege or something or a space that be on the basis of your own actions, then that trust becomes so much greater between you and your child.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important. And I think also, yes, single parenting is really, really hard.
It's so hard.
It also is a really great opportunity to be incredibly close. I think, I have a theory, that single moms, we have an opportunity to have a really unique relationship with our children. That I'm not knocking it. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just unique. And that we are the ones in those moments that they come to, and they see us eventually. They'll be like, wow, look at my mom. Look how she got me through all of that.
Yeah.
And I always think about, what do you want your future self? I'm always working for my future self. And what do I want those conversations to be like when my kids are in their 20s, when they're in their 30s, and they're coming back home for Thanksgiving, and they're around the Thanksgiving table joking about all the stuff that they did when they were kids, right? As we normally do when we get together with our family and laugh and tell stories. I don't want them to think Mom was just like always mad at us and crazy. I want them to be like, we knew we could trust you, Mom, but you also taught us great lessons.
Well, think like when they're 10, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11, 12, if we meet their mistakes with, you're grounded, go to your room, you're in trouble, coming unglued, getting mad, getting angry. And maybe, you know, not to say this, you're going to raise terrible children if you do that. But if that is how you've met those mistakes, what happens when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, and they have more freedom, autonomy, and, well, let's face it, better at hiding things because they have more freedom and autonomy. Are they going to come to you when they mess up if there's a chance you wouldn't find out otherwise? Probably not, because all we've taught them is, if you come to me, I'm going to come unglued on you. You're going to be grounded. You're going to lose all these things. So if we're waiting until they're 14, 15, 16 to finally be like, okay, you can tell me anything and we'll just talk about it.
Like, no.
They're not going to believe you. It has to start when they're really little about the things that feel like, when a 9-year-old messes up, like it's sometimes so ridiculous, the things that they do, because it doesn't, like, we're adults. We look at it and we're like, this is common sense. Why would you do something like that?
They don't have common sense yet.
Right. They don't have common sense yet. But if you can meet that 9-year-old mistake with empathy and compassion, that their 16-year-old version of them is way more likely to be like, hey, Mom, I really messed up. Or this happened. Can I give another example? So, my daughter is and we're gonna get a little vulnerable here, like, because we're getting to the age of like sexuality. We're discovering our sexuality, and something happened with her boyfriend, where he's about 1.5 years older than her. Now she's 15. So a boy who is 17 is maybe ready to have sex. My 15-year-old daughter has told me time and time again she is not. They're allowed to leave campus for school. And they went off campus for school, and he tried to have sex with her in his car. And she told him no. And he got mad. And I picked her up from school, and she was so upset and so emotional, and I could tell, and I was like, what happened? And at first she didn't say anything. She's like, nothing, I don't want to talk about it. And so, you know, I can't pry anything out of her, and I was like, okay, I just want you to know I'm here for you, and I can feel that something's wrong, and I love you, and whatever it is, we can work it out together. You don't have to be in this by yourself. And then as soon as I said that, she started crying, but started trying to like stop herself from crying. And then I said, honey, you're allowed to cry. I don't even know what's wrong, but whatever it is, you're allowed to cry. And as soon as I said that and put my hand on her arm, she started crying. She told me the whole story from start to finish. She tried to have sex with me. I'm just not ready yet, Mom. And I told him that, and he was such a jerk, and all of these things. But all I could think, and we talked through it a lot, and it was a really emotional and vulnerable night in terms of conversation with her. But at the end of it, what I thought was, she told me. Right. I would think that was a little internal victory, that you were like, she's telling me. There was no way I would have found out about that otherwise. There was nothing, but she trusted me enough to say, he tried to have sex with me and I wasn't ready, and I said no, and this is what happened, and this is how I feel about it. And that felt like such a victory. And I got there by not losing my crap on her when she was 9 years old.
Right.
Doing crazy things.
Right.
You know?
You keep going. And it also pays off, one last story, to redeem my son. He's a good boy.
He's such a good boy.
Yes.
He's such a good boy.
That later, a couple days later, it was late on a Friday night. He comes into my room. It's like 11 o'clock. I was asleep. I go to bed early. And he's woke me up. Mom, I've got a friend that really needs help. And he's got a friend that's moving to another state in 8th grade to go to another high school. He's really bummed about it. And it was on Snapchat. And Andy was afraid he was going to hurt himself or do something. But Andy knew that he could come and tell me. And he also has empathy. He goes, will you drive me over there? Because he needs a friend. Did I want to drive over there? I was in my pajamas. It was a Friday. I had plans to sleep in on Saturday morning. But I got my booty up out of bed. And I just said, but I'm really impressed that you're caring for your friend. Yeah. And do we need to call somebody? He just needs a friend, Mom. He's alone. I know. I was like, okay, let's go over there.
And you empowered him to show up as the kind of person and the kind of man he wants to be. And you let him be the kind of person he wants to be, because he's 14. He can't drive himself over there. We're gonna Uber over there. That was the only way he was going to be allowed to show up the way as the man he wants to be, is if
it was a turn. Instead of getting mad at a teacher, how about we be a human being that cares for people? Yeah. And there we go.
There it is.
You got this, and we're here for you. Would love for you to follow this podcast. Maybe you know another single mom that could use this information. Like, copy the link to this podcast and just text it to them. In my opinion, the more single moms that are supporting each other, the stronger we all are. Absolutely. So have them join the club.
Yeah, and if you have any unique ways in which you've handled your kids messing up, we'd love to hear them, because I think we can all benefit. There's no manual for this, There's no guidebook. We're all just doing our best, and the some of the best parenting approaches I have in my personal manual come from other moms who were like, yeah, this is how I handled it, and this was the outcome. And so if you've got any ways you've handled your kids messing up that proved to be really powerful for you, I think that it can only serve us all to hear them.
Yes, send me an email. I'll put the link in the show notes on how to send me an email, or you can always call our hotline too. I'll put that hotline number in the show notes, and then we could put your voice on the next podcast. That would be super cool. Thanks, single mamas. We love you. Real quick before you go, I'm looking for 10 single moms. If you're tired of struggling with your money and you're ready to take control of your finances, this is for you. Do you feel overwhelmed and exhausted and ashamed of your financial situation? It's okay. We've been there too. But we want to help you. You don't have to stay here. It's time to take control of your finances and transform your life with the Single Mom Survival Guide, Your Money Honey digital course. We have a really unique and special offer for you for just the first 10 single moms that are ready to break free from the stress and worry of financial insecurity. We want to help you take control of your finances so your finances don't control you anymore, or even your dating life. We are opening up 10 spots for early enrollment. You get half price on this course, and in exchange for half price, we just want your feedback. Just spend less than 5 minutes once a week for the next 6 weeks. We'll send you an email, and you get to choose, and you help us create this course. It's $197 the full course, but you get it for $98. And it's just for the first 10. 10 spots are available only through this Saturday, May 27th. So act right now before they fill up. Here's what you're going to learn. In this course, you'll learn practical strategies for managing your money, reducing debt, and building wealth. But it's not just about the money. We know that being a single mom is a really tough job. And that's why we've included strategies to help you transform your life mentally into a strong, confident, and courageous woman. By the end of this course, you're going to be able to identify and address any limiting beliefs or mindset blocks that might be holding you back from financial success. Overcome that poverty mindset. how to become financially independent and not live off child support, how to reduce your debt and increase your credit score. It's not that hard. How to develop a savings plan, build an emergency fund, and plan for your future, maybe even buy your own home. And also, when you put all those things together, you can attract the love of your life. And we want to help you do that. P.S. Did we mention that you get lifetime access to this course? It goes live August 1st, which means if we update it at any time, you have all the access to it. We would love for you to be one out of the first 10 single moms that wants to stop struggling with money. You can sign up right now. The link is in the show notes. We love you. Get your brave on.